All right, what's next on the list, Dr. Dust?
I would love to talk about this difference between confidence and humility. Great research study was done a long time ago. Asked everybody in the room to rate everybody else's performance within this specific team episode, performance episode. Like how'd they do, and who do you think was doing a good job? Who was effective, who was a leader, etc. Before this performance episode went down, where they gave them some project to work on, they had everybody self-rate things like confidence, humility, etc. At the end, what they found is that those that were rated higher in confidence were more likely to get ratings from the group members that they were more effective. Not objectively more effective, just assumptions that they were better leaders and more successful in whatever they were trying to accomplish. It is built into our psyche that those that are confident are probably performing better. So a lot of times when people are successful, they exude the confidence because now that they're successful. So it's kind of reversed, right? So the confidence didn't necessarily lead to the success. It's that they have success, now they're confident, and so now we look at them and say, oh, being confident is going to help me be successful. And so you get a lot of people walking around that are essentially saying, I got to have this confidence, I have to exude the fact that I know what I'm doing at all times and everything else.
Okay, so what's the difference between confidence and extroversion?
So you can have quiet confidence, right? Where you're confident in what you're saying when you do say it, and you're confident in your methods, and you're confident in your conversations, and you don't feel wishy-washy and switch ideas. You can do that quietly, and you can do that in a way that is reserved. Extroversion would be incredibly sociable in explaining to people that you know what you're talking about and you know why you're talking about it.
Or you could, in a very extroverted way, talk about how you made a really big mistake, and that might not come across as confident.
Yeah, right.
Or you're not sure what to do. Or,
That's right.
Okay,
Yes.
helpful distinction.
So confidence, yes, is correlated and associated with the extent to which you think people are successful and effective. And also, confidence, you can look at it as like self-esteem or self-efficacy, which is essentially like your belief in yourself that you can get it done. You know, those things are good. The higher those are for you individually, the higher likelihood you do have of being successful and getting things done. So there's some good to that, but there's the too much of a good thing effect, right? Like if you're overconfident, especially if you're for you individually, if you're overconfident, you might be taking on more than you can really handle. For the people that witness your overconfidence, what do you think the reaction is?
Steamroller.
Pure annoyance, steamroller, this person is driving me crazy.
Yeah.
That's not good either. So set that aside for a second.
Okay.
Humility, which arguably is kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum, but it's a different construct, is this recognition that you don't know everything. And you should be willing to ask questions and recognize that other people's input not only is appreciated, but needed. And you don't assume you know everything, and it's more about this engaging conversation to ensure that you make the best possible decision. So humility has those features, and that's important, but also interestingly, kind of the opposite of confidence, right? Because you're the one saying, hey, I don't know everything here. I don't know how to make the perfect podcast. Like, can you please give me some advice on what we're supposed to be doing? And but that also can be taken too far. So if I just exude humility and I have I don't know the correct answer to everything, right? Like, yeah, I have my PhD, but I really don't know how to do that analysis, or I really don't know what that means. I mean, that is also potentially going to be harmful for your own self-efficacy and for others' perception that you're like qualified to get it done. Yes.
Is there a correlation between those and gender?
In some situations, yes. So actually, this is I'm glad you brought this up. So for humility, when it comes to leadership, men are given a bonus for being more humble leaders. So for example, in the study we did, we evaluated the extent to which the employee that was being led by the leader felt as if that leader was successful and felt as if there was a high quality relationship between the two. If that male leader was humble, I was more likely to rate those outcomes as higher.
As an employee.
If that leader was female, she did not get the same bonus that the male did for engaging in that type of humble leadership. Right? So it's not that there's necessarily correlations between the two. It's a little bit trickier than that.
It's perception, like appreciation of the through perception. Yeah.
Right? Like we almost say we would expect that males are going to be more agentic and more forceful and more authoritative.
Agentic as in action-oriented?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then females are going to be more communal and kind and caring. This is the social cultural baggage that we've taken with us over time and then kind of infused it into what we expect leaders to do, which has no rationale, but it is there.
Does the woman get a bonus for being confident?
No. It doesn't go both ways.
Does she get dinged for being confident?
Correct.
Oh, no!
Yeah. And actually, where they've studied this the most is in politics.
Oh.
So basically, when the female steps up as the potential presidential candidate and engages in this agentic behavior like her male counterparts that she's running against, she comes across as abrasive, where the males come across as more confident, right? It's a problem. So our cognitive biases are embedded in our assumptions of what good leadership looks like.
Gosh, you know where else I think that should be studied? Venture capital. So you need to be humble and confident, and there's no perfect balance. And there was also a study done, I think by Harvard Business Review, don't quote me on that, that was looking at what questions do venture capitalists ask women versus men. And they found that the questions they were asking men were positive oriented, even if the venture capitalist was herself a woman. Would ask like, so like, what do you think the upside is of this? Or like, what, like really just looking at like the best case scenario and asking questions about that. Whereas with women, it would be like, well, what are you going to do when you run out of money? What are you going to do when you hit the end of your runway? What are you going to do when like you can't find that key person you're talking about? And it's like negative focused questions. And so obviously I live in this world and I'm very passionate about that. But I wonder, you know, like as a woman, I'd hate pulling the woman card of like, well, you know, it's just because I'm a woman. But I do get so curious about like, academically, like what is behind that? Like the woman doesn't get points for being humble, but she gets dinged for being confident. Like you can't win. So like what is it that wins? And what I always go to is it's traction, baby. It's just showing that we're succeeding, and that'll win all hearts. But
you're right. And that's a problem. And it also speaks to the fact that not just men but women that are also engaging in the cognitive bias, right? That speaks to how deeply ingrained it's
cultural, so
and that's really hard to change. And I do think a lot more research can be done. And I feel like Cloverleaf really is chipping away at this because you have this demographic difference that we visually see. It's a surface level diversity characteristic. And then you also have a deep level characteristic, which is our traits and behaviors and everything else. And it doesn't matter what you look like. Everybody's varying on those different things. And so a lot of times the way that people are trying to solve DE and I issues right now is by reminding us of our cognitive biases and saying, hey, you did this wrong. This is not the right way to think, so next time don't do that. That doesn't work. I make the same mistakes. Female founders or female investors make the same mistakes about female founders. So it's really hard to rewire that. So instead, or not instead, but in addition to what we could be doing is priming people, like with Cloverleaf's micro nudges, to say, this is what you should be focusing on. It has nothing to do with what you look like and everything to do with what you act like. So instead of telling people to stop thinking about the bad, give them the things that they should be thinking about, the good, the differences between who you are and who they are and how you can work better together. It needs to be both, right? So yes, diversity training still should do it. That's important. But it's not the full spectrum.